how could you? I choked out, tears streaming down my face as I stared at my parents across the kitchen table. The weight of their betrayal pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I trusted you. I thought you were on my side. My mother reached out, her hand trembling. Lucy, sweetheart, we are on your side. We've always been. Don't. I snapped, jerking away from her touch. Don't you dare say you're on my side. Not after what you've done. My father sighed heavily, his face a mask of guilt and frustration. We were just trying to help, Lucy. We thought. You thought what? I interrupted, my voice rising. That going behind my back to support the man who cheated on me was helpful? That lying to me for months was in my best interest? The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the pain in their eyes, but at that moment, I couldn't bring myself to care. My own pain, my own sense of betrayal, was too overwhelming. I think. I started, then paused, taking a deep breath to steady myself. I think I need some time away from you both. I can't do this right now. As I stood up to leave, my mother's quiet sob broke the silence. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. With shaking hands, I grabbed my bag and walked out the door, leaving behind the two people I thought I could always trust. That conversation marked the beginning of the end of my relationship with my parents. But to understand how we got there, I need to take you back to the beginning. Have you ever broken up with someone your parents liked and never heard the end of it from them? Well, my story goes beyond that. I had to cut off my parents because I found out they were supporting my ex-boyfriend right before we broke up, even though he cheated on me and I was done with him. I'm Lucy, and I'm 27 now. 5 years ago, when I was 22, I split up with my then 28-year-old boyfriend after we had dated for 3 years. Let's call him Jake. I left him because I found out he had cheated on me multiple times, which absolutely shattered my heart. Jake and I had been college sweethearts. We met in my sophomore year when he was a senior, and it felt like a fairy tale romance. He was charming, ambitious, and came from a well-to-do family. My parents adored him from the start, seeing him as the perfect match for their only daughter. For 3 years, I thought I had it all. A loving boyfriend, supportive parents, and a bright future ahead of us. Jake and I talked about marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards. I truly believed he was the one I'd spend my life with. But life has a way of shattering our illusions. It was a random Tuesday when I found out about Jake's infidelity. A friend of a friend saw him with another woman and felt compelled to tell me. At first, I didn't want to believe it. But as I started digging, the truth came tumbling out like a house of cards. Not only had Jake cheated once, but he had been unfaithful multiple times throughout our relationship. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me gasping for air and questioning every moment we'd shared. When I confronted Jake, he tried to explain, to justify his actions. But I was done. The trust was irreparably broken, and my heart lay in pieces at my feet. I ended things then and there, packing up my belongings from our shared apartment with tears streaming down my face. In those initial days after the breakup, my parents were my rock. Or so I thought. They held me as I cried, listened to me rant and rave about Jake's betrayal, and assured me that I'd done the right thing by walking away. Their support meant everything to me during that dark time. My parents were incredibly supportive and helped me get through it, or so I thought. I often told friends when recounting the story of my breakup. Little did I know how wrong I was. Slowly but surely, I began to heal. The pain of Jake's betrayal faded, replaced by a growing sense of self-worth and independence. I threw myself into my career, made new friends, and even started cautiously dipping my toes back into the dating pool. Life was looking up, and I felt stronger than ever. Then, last month, everything changed again. Last month, I reconnected with an old mutual friend who dropped a bombshell, I explained to my therapist, still reeling from the revelation. This friend, Sarah, had known both Jake and me during our relationship. We bumped into each other at a local coffee shop and got to talking, catching up on the years that had passed. That's when Sarah hesitantly shared something that would shatter my world for the second time in 5 years. You know, she said, her voice low, I always felt bad about not telling you this before, but I figured it was in the past and wouldn't matter anymore. But maybe you should know. My heart began to race as she continued, each word feeling like a physical blow. Sarah revealed that before Jake and I ended our relationship, my parents had been in constant contact with him. They were supporting him, both emotionally and financially, even though they knew about his cheating. I felt the blood drain from my face as Sarah explained that my father had been giving Jake job recommendations, helping him climb the corporate ladder even as he was betraying me. My mother, the woman I'd cried to countless times about my relationship troubles, had been offering Jake relationship advice behind my back. But the worst part? They had loaned him money. Significant amounts that I had no idea about at the time. As Sarah spoke, I felt a cold, creeping horror wash over me. The parents I thought I knew, the ones who had held me as I cried over Jake's betrayal, had been complicit in that very betrayal. They had chosen him over me, their own daughter. I left the cafe in a daze, my mind reeling with this new information. Part of me wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, that there had to be some explanation. But deep down, I knew it was true. It explained so many little things that hadn't quite added up over the years, comments my parents had made, their occasional hesitation when I spoke badly of Jake. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying every interaction with my parents over the past 5 years. How many times had they lied to my face? How many times had they pretended to support me while secretly undermining my decisions? The next morning, I called my parents and asked them to meet me. They agreed, sounding cheerful and oblivious to the storm that was about to break. That's how we ended up at that kitchen table, having the most painful conversation of my life. When I confronted my parents, they didn't deny it, I recalled later to my best friend, still struggling to process what had happened. They claimed they were trying to keep the peace and believed he was just making mistakes and would change. Their justifications felt like salt in an open wound. They thought it was best for me to stay with Jake because he came from a wealthy family and could provide stability. My mother, her voice pleading, had said they believed marriage would solve our issues. We hoped you would marry him, my father had added, his tone almost wistful. We thought marriage would make him settle down, make him faithful. Each word they spoke felt like another betrayal. They had put Jake's feelings, his potential, above my happiness and well-being. They had valued the idea of me marrying into a wealthy family over my right to be in a faithful, loving relationship. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents had financially supported the man who was repeatedly cheating on me. They had known about his infidelity and chosen to help him rather than protect me. I can't do this, I had said, standing up from that kitchen table. I can't be around you right now. Maybe not for a long time. They protested, of course. They tried to explain further, to justify their actions, but I was done listening. I walked away from them that day, and I haven't spoken to them since. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I felt adrift, cut off from the family that had always been my anchor. But as painful as it was, I knew I had made the right decision. The depth of their betrayal was too great to simply forgive and forget. My siblings didn't make it any easier. They were angry with me for cutting off our parents, claiming that Mom and Dad only ever had my best interests at heart. But they hadn't been there. They hadn't seen the look in our parents' eyes as they admitted to betraying me so completely. They're our parents, Lucy, my sister argued during one heated phone call. They made a mistake, but they love you. You can't just cut them off like this. But I could, and I did. Because it wasn't just a mistake. It was a calculated decision to prioritize Jake and their own desires over my well-being. It was a fundamental breach of trust that I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. About a month after our confrontation in the kitchen, I received a text message from my mother. It was an invitation to a family gathering, and the words that followed made my blood run cold. Your father and I have invited Jake as well, the message read. We really think you two should try to work things out. He's changed, Lucy. He's ready to commit now. I stared at my phone in disbelief, a maelstrom of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, hurt, disbelief, they all warred for dominance as I tried to process what I was reading. Even after everything, after I had made it clear how deeply their actions had hurt me, they were still trying to push me back towards Jake. This made me realize they still don't understand the depth of their betrayal. I confided in my therapist during our next session. They even suggested I give him another chance, because he's changed and is ready to commit. It was at that moment that I realized the true depth of the problem. My parents didn't just make a mistake 5 years ago. They fundamentally did not understand or respect my feelings, my decisions, or my right to choose my own path in life. They were still clinging to their vision of what my life should be, regardless of what I actually wanted or needed. I didn't respond to the message. Instead, I blocked their numbers and email addresses. It was a drastic step, but I knew it was necessary for my own mental health and well-being. The fallout from my decision has been significant. My family is divided, with some siblings supporting me and others siding with our parents. I've missed birthdays, holidays, and family milestones. There are days when the loneliness is almost unbearable, when I long for the comfort and familiarity of my family. But then I remember the betrayal, the lies, the fundamental lack of respect for my autonomy, and I know I've made the right choice. It's not easy, but it's necessary. My parents have tried apologizing several times, sending messages through my siblings or mutual friends. But their apologies always come with a caveat, a suggestion that I should give Jake another chance, or a reminder of how good he could be for my future. They still don't understand the depth of their betrayal or the pain they've caused me. It's been 5 months now since I cut off contact with my parents. 5 months of rebuilding my life, of learning to stand on my own without the safety net of family. It's been challenging, but also incredibly empowering. I've learned so much about myself in this time. I've discovered a strength I never knew I had, a resilience that has carried me through the darkest days. I built a support network of friends who respect my decisions and value me for who I am, not for who they want me to be. I've also had to confront some hard truths about my relationship with my parents. Looking back, I can see patterns that I'd overlooked before, times when they had tried to steer my life in directions they thought were best, regardless of my own desires. The situation with Jake wasn't an isolated incident, but rather the breaking point in a long-standing issue. There are days when I wonder if I'll ever be able to forgive them. The hurt runs deep, and the breach of trust feels almost insurmountable. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't something you can force. It's a process, one that takes time and often requires real change from the person who caused the hurt. For now, I'm focusing on healing. I'm in therapy, working through the complex emotions tied up in this family drama. I'm learning to set boundaries, to value my own needs and desires, and to stand firm in my decisions even when others disagree. I'm also rediscovering who I am outside of my family's expectations. For so long, I had unconsciously molded myself to fit their vision of who I should be. Now, I'm free to explore my own path, to make mistakes and learn from them without the weight of their judgment. As for Jake, I haven't spoken to him since our breakup 5 years ago, and I have no desire to change that. Whatever changes he may or may not have made in his life are irrelevant to me now. Our relationship is firmly in the past, where it belongs. Sometimes, I catch myself wondering what my life would be like if I hadn't found out about my parents' betrayal. Would I still be living under the illusion of their unconditional support? Would I have eventually given in to their pressure and gotten back together with Jake? The thought makes me shudder. In a strange way, as painful as this experience has been, I'm grateful for it. It's forced me to confront uncomfortable truths, to stand up for myself in ways I never had before. It's shown me the importance of surrounding myself with people who truly support and respect me, not just those who claim to have my best interests at heart. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my parents. Perhaps, in time, they'll come to understand the gravity of their actions and make a genuine effort to change. Maybe we'll be able to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Or maybe the rift between us will prove too wide to bridge. What I do know is that I'm no longer willing to compromise my own well-being and self-respect for the sake of maintaining a facade of family harmony. I've learned the hard way that sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is to step away from toxic relationships, even when those relationships are with the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. To anyone out there who finds themselves in a similar situation, wrestling with the decision to distance themselves from family members who have betrayed their trust, I want you to know that it's okay. It's okay to prioritize your own mental and emotional health. It's okay to set boundaries, even with family. And it's okay if those boundaries include cutting off contact, whether temporarily or permanently. It's not an easy road. There will be days when you question your decision, when the loneliness feels overwhelming. But stand firm in your conviction. Surround yourself with people who support and respect you. Seek professional help if you need it. And above all, be kind to yourself as you navigate this difficult journey. As for me, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm learning to find joy in the little things: a cup of coffee shared with a supportive friend, a productive day at work, a peaceful evening spent reading a good book. I'm building a life that's true to who I am, not who anyone else thinks I should be. And you know what? Despite the pain and the loss, I'm happier now than I've been in years. Because for the first time in my adult life, I'm living on my own terms. I'm making decisions based on what's best for me, not what will please my parents or conform to societal expectations. So yes, I've broken up with someone my parents liked. And yes, I'm still hearing about it, not from them directly anymore, but through the ripple effects their actions have had on my life. But I've also broken free from a cycle of manipulation and disrespect that could have trapped me for years to come. It's not the path I would have chosen, but it's the path I'm on. And I'm walking it with my head held high, secure in the knowledge that I'm doing what's right for me. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. As I sit here, reflecting on the tumultuous journey of the past 5 months, I can't help but feel a mix of sadness and hope. Sadness for the relationship I've lost with my parents, but hope for the future I'm building for myself. It's a future based on self-respect, healthy boundaries, and genuine relationships. I don't know if I'll ever fully heal from this betrayal. I don't know if my relationship with my parents will ever be the same. But I do know that I'm stronger now than I've ever been. I've weathered this storm, and I'm still standing. To my parents, if you ever read this, I love you. I always will. But love isn't enough when it comes at the cost of my self-respect and happiness. I hope that one day you'll understand the pain you've caused and the trust you've broken. And I hope that when that day comes, we can start to rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Until then, I'll continue on this path I've chosen. It's not always easy, but it's mine. And for now, that's enough.